You know, people gathering at a LaGrange Walmart today to remember a shining light in their community. And folks, we first told you about this story. It's about Carl Green last month when members of his community gathered to celebrate his 26th working at the local Walmart. Well, people called him the definition of good. And his impact on the community actually showed when neighbors and first responders came together to celebrate that milestone. Well, Green died suddenly within a month of that celebration. And today, people showed up at the LaGrange Walmart to remember him with t-shirts that read, "Love like Carl." And you can tell from this crowd just how much he meant to all those folks out there. And just like his 26-year celebration, members of the LaGrange Police Department were there today to celebrate his life.